Children are going to school wearing nappies. That is not a good thing. So if your child is going to be starting school next year, fear not, for in this video I'm going to share with you some methods that you can use to potty train your child so they're going to be ready for school in the new academic year. Hello, and my name is Tamsin and I run the website theonlychildclub.net, and I'm dedicated to supporting you and your gorgeous one-child family, helping you all to grow, flourish and live life to the full. Now, when I say that children are going to school with nappies on, I recently heard that report in the news and I've read a few articles about this. Now, some of the reasons that people are given over why children are going to school with nappies on or going to school in buggies is as a result of the pandemic. Now, I've got my own view on that and I'm going to share with you that view at the end of this video. It's a bit controversial, you might really hate what I'm saying, but if you are quite interested, then please do listen to the very end of the video and I'll share with you what I think of the reasons why this is happening and what should be done about it. I confess I'm being a bit judgmental with it, but I'll be interested in your views as well. But before we talk about that, I thought I would just share with you some of the tips and advice that I gave on the website theonlychildclub.net. There is a blog post called Top Tips on Potty Training Your Child. So I'm going to share with you some of those tips that I share, but by all means do have a look at that blog post. I share one or two kind of personal stories as well that you can read in that blog post, and I will put that in the description below. So the first question is what is the best age to start potty training? Well, it is all very dependent on your child and how fast your child is developing and learning. For some children, they can pick it up like that. For other children, it may take a little bit longer. So what you might want to do is test it out a little bit and just see how your child is responding. Perhaps take your child's nappy off, but don't necessarily put on underwear. Just let them run around in the nod as nature intended, and have a potty nearby and just see if they can pick up the feeling of needing the toilet and then going to the toilet. The reason I say don't put underwear on, and I'll talk about this a little bit later on as well, is I personally don't think it's a good thing to put underwear on and then take away and then put nappies back on. I think it causes confusion there. It's a bit of aggression in a way. So when it comes to teaching your child, it always should be about progress and moving forward. So by all means, take a nappy off, let the child run around without a nappy on for a little while, see if that works out without using the pants, or put a nappy back on. Another thing you could consider is the pull-up nappies, which is a nice in-between, and I'll talk about the pros and cons of pull-ups in a moment, but that is another option. So you can put it to the test and just see. The main thing is your child needs to be able to acknowledge when they feel they need to go to the toilet. They need to be able to recognise that feeling and then know the response of going to use the potty. So that is where the key is, as it were. So you need to see, is your child able to make that coalition between feeling full, like they're going, feeling like their bladder is full, and then what the right response is. And the other age is making sure that they do learn how to use the toilet before they go to school. Okay, that has to be the cut-off period. You cannot drag it out forever, and I'll talk about that a bit later on as well. But make sure that your child is potty trained before they go to school. So if your child is still struggling with this, at the beginning of the summer holidays, before they start school that September, what you need to be doing is using that summer to definitely make sure they are potty trained. And if they still haven't mastered that, then don't send them to school. Full stop. Okay, as I said, I'm going to talk about all of this stuff a lot later on, but you can delay that for a year and your child can continue with nursery, or maybe you want to do some homeschooling with them, something like that. Just make sure your child is not going to school still wearing nappies, not being potty trained. They need to be potty trained. So hopefully that will help you. It's generally around the age between 2.5 and 4. That tends to be the general age group that children learn how to use a potty. Some kids is a little bit earlier than that. It's really impressive. Some children it's a little bit later than that, and that's fine. Right, so in the blog I call this potty season, okay? And I say choose potty season wisely. So if you are able to use the summer as a time to do potty training, because what you can do, and this is what I've done, and this is what plenty of other parents I know who have done, and it's lots of advice I've been given on this one. Let your child run around in the garden in the summertime with just a top on, no bottoms on, put a potty there and let them run free as nature intended. And if they need the toilet, if they're doing a bit of a wee dance, then you can guide them towards the toilet and they can use that towards the potty. But if they have any accidents, just goes in the grass, no problem, right? Or in the yard. You know, you don't have to do a lot of cleaning. So that's why if you can do potty training in the summer, it's a good idea because you can do it outside. But if that's not possible for you, you may want to encourage your child to be in a room where there isn't a carpet, or you may want to make sure your child's got pull-ups, or perhaps they have the cotton underwear, but you just need to make sure you're prepared for accidents on the carpet. The other thing is like training. If you don't have a garden, you can train your child a little bit in the park as well. So you can take a portable potty with you in the park and they can be running around. Obviously they need to be wearing some sort of underwear. It could be the pull-ups, but then you can take them to the potty that you're carrying behind a tree and then let them do their business there. So that's another option for you. So let's talk about pull-ups. What are they and what are the pros and cons for pull-ups? Pull-ups are the next stage nappy basically. For a long time you've been able to lay your baby down with little tabs open and fold the nappy over like that on the baby, stick it down, lovely. For a pull-up, it's like your pants, you just pull them up like you would your normal pants, but they're still nappy-like material, and you pull them up, and your child, if they do have an accident, it can absorb the fluid without any issues. The pros, of course, is that it is easier to take your child out and about with pull-ups, and they can go to the toilet, they can learn how to pull their underwear down and use the potty or the toilet if you're holding them over the toilet. And so it's a nice little next step between nappies and cloth underwear. It is a nice little step. The drawbacks, of course, are that the child might not necessarily know that they have soiled their pull-ups or have wet them, because the pull-up absorbs the urine, so they might not actually feel it. So it may take a lot longer for them to transfer from nappies into using the potty. And yeah, I think that's the main drawback, that they won't necessarily feel that it's wet, and so it will take longer for them to actually be able to go and use the potty. There are some nice little mediums. So you've got the Bambino Mio potty training pants. They're pretty good. So I'll put a link to them below. The other thing you may want to consider is setting up something of a potty training routine. And this is where you monitor what drinks you are giving your child and how long it takes for that drink to pass through their system and when they need the toilet. So in a way, you and your child will have a generally much better idea of when they're likely to need the toilet. So you can do a bit of an experiment, bit of a test to time from having the drink to needing the toilet. On average, is about 5 to 15 minutes between having a drink and needing the toilet. And yeah, I'm just thinking of like the extreme cases where like young Sheldon literally has a toilet schedule because he knows exactly when he's going to need based on what he's eaten and when he's had a drink. Don't be too rigorous with it like Sheldon, but it will give you a general idea. And this is quite an interesting fact. People who've got disabilities, people who may be quadriplegic and they need to have help with going to the toilet, they're very careful on the timing in which and when they have a drink, because they have to think, when will a carer be available to be able to help me go to the toilet? So it's something adults can train themselves to do, and children can do it as well to a degree. I've put a thing on here about reward charts. Now, absolutely, when your child is using the toilet, you should give them lots of praise so that they understand this is the way that they can learn. They have that feeling, they learn what the feeling is, and I'll talk to you about that in a minute. But they'll learn what the feeling is, needing to go to the toilet. They'll go to the toilet. Then you lash loads of praise on them. Hey, well done, you've gone to the toilet. You've had a wee in the potty. That is good. Well done. Lots and lots of praise. Because then their little brains will be like, because they don't know right from wrong. They don't know the right way to do something, the wrong way to do something. So you have to say, this is good. Yay. This is really good when you go to the toilet like this, just like you do with a dog or a cat for certain things, you know, like the giving treats almost. It is a bit like that when it comes to these bodily functions. So give them lots of praise, but I wouldn't recommend a reward chart, because a reward chart tends to be about behaviour, of good behaviour and bad behaviour, on things that they have choice about. Whereas going to the toilet, it's just a normal bodily function, and some people, they just don't have as good control of their bladder as other people, and it's not their fault at all. So that's why I don't think a reward chart of putting stickers on there when they've gone to the potty is a good idea, because child, you know, they might want to have lots of stars, they just can't seem to control their bladder, and it's a bit unfair on them. So I wouldn't recommend a reward chart, but I would definitely recommend lots of praise when your child does use the potty or the toilet by themselves. So here's a few tips on supporting your child during the potty training time. Be patient with them. Some children pick it up like that. Some children find it difficult. Your child is going to have accidents. That's fine. Don't make a big fuss about it. Just, you know, move on. And you can have a talk to your child about, hey, I saw you having the wee dance. You're wiggling like that. I told you to go to the toilet, but you didn't. And then this happened. Do you understand? And hopefully, eventually, they'll make some connections in their brain. Oh, yes, when I do this wiggle and mum says, do you need a wee? I probably do need a wee. Does that make sense? That's the sort of communications you need to have with your child. Probably not on quite such an adult level, but I'll talk about some books in a minute that you can share with your child to help them. Obviously offer lots and lots of praise. That's, as I said, very, very important, so your child can make that connection. Be careful how you respond to your child if they do have an accident. I think most people are fine and don't make a to-do about it, but some people they can. If you get really frustrated and impatient, if your child just keeps having accident time and time again, you've gone through umpteen underwear in a day, you might be, but you've got to be really careful not to make your child in any way feel ashamed. It's easier to do that than people think, and I'm sure it's not what you want. So you just got to be really careful about, it's okay, maybe next time we can improve on this. Small steps, but try your very best not to make too much of a fuss so that your child does not feel any sense of shame. So make sure that you are approachable, so if your child is having any issues, they can talk to you about it, and that they can tell you if they've had an accident and you're not going to have a go at them. I'm sure this is not going to be an issue for you, but I know in the past, sadly, it has happened, and in some families, that's the way people respond. A little bit authoritarian, and it's not going to help your child. They're going to feel more anxious, which means they're more likely to have accidents, because anxiety can be linked to that. Try your best to make it fun. And I got to admit, the way that I did it with SOPs was when I needed the toilet, I did exactly the same thing that she did. I exaggerated how I needed the toilet. I did the wee dance myself. I'm like, oh, I need a wee, my blood's so full. I just talked about it and I was really open, and I went there and I let my daughter see what I was doing so she could see, the visual learner, see and then imitate. So we kind of made it funny. We had a bit of a laugh over it. So try and make it fun. Also, if you can, use the potty and a child's toy to show them how the toy works. I'll talk a little bit about training boys. Not as easy as training girls in this particular area. So I'll talk about that in a minute if you've got a boy, but you might be able to help with toys. Also, if you've got a child who's got a learning disability, you might want to, well, actually any child really, if you fill a water balloon up with water, and then or any balloon up with water, and they can squeeze it, and they can say, hey, this is what the bladder's like, squeeze it when it's full, and then you can just open it up a little bit, let the water come out so they can see, and that's what's happening in your body. You can explain it to them in that way so they've got a sense of what it's like. So that might help. And obviously the main thing is being prepared, having lots of spare underwear all the time with you, having some pull-ups if you feel that that's what you want to use as well, having wet wipes, having carpet cleaner, dare I say, having carpet cleaner out there because you might have to use it. So the main thing is making sure that your child, even when you're going through that stage of potty training, for a few, 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks, however long it takes, you don't stop your child from doing what they would normally do. You wouldn't say, hey, we're not going to go swimming this Monday like we normally do because we're doing the potty training. Make sure they're still doing the same activities, but they've got this added dimension to things where they're also being potty trained. And your child's nursery should know, how to help with the potty training. They'll be part of that. When it comes to potty training girls versus boys, I've got to confess, this is where I'm really glad I had a daughter, because I had no idea how I would potty train a boy. But if you do have a boy and you are not sure how to potty train them, there is a good blog post on the motherandbaby.com website about how to potty train boys. So I'll put a link to that in the description below. There's also a link to it in my own blog post. So that will help you if you are training boys. I can't really help you that much because I had a daughter and I have no idea how to train boys. But what I do think is quite good is if you have a girl, then the mother does the potty training generally, and if you've got a boy, then the father. I kind of feel that's the father's role to do that, but I'm a bit traditional like that. Maybe you disagree. In regards to nighttime toilet training, some children can pick up toilet training during the day and they're not having any accidents, but at night time they may still be having accidents. Here's a few things that you can consider when it comes to training them to use the toilet at night. Number one, do what I said before about having a schedule, making sure that your child's not drinking anything before a certain time before bed. So they should, in theory, have an empty bladder. Another thing you can do is put the potty in their bedroom, like a chamber pot, the old chamber pots, so that your child can just go off and use that. And if you've got a night light, they should be able to see that, and it shouldn't be problematic if it's in their room. The other thing is putting a waterproof mattress protector on your child's bed. And the last thing, really important, make sure you've got spare sheets in your child's room, so that if they do have an accident in the night, they call you out, you can do a quick swap of the sheets, trying to keep things as quick and easy as possible so your child can go straight back to bed and sleep, and you can go straight back to bed and to sleep. There's a few quite entertaining potty training books out there. There's Pirate Pete's Potty, a noisy sound book. That sounds very entertaining. No More Nappies, a potty training book. And I'm not even going to say what the third one is that I've got on this, because I'll probably get banned from YouTube if I say this one. So if you're interested to know the name of this other book that is on my website, on my blog post, then please do tap onto the blog post about training your child in potty training, because then you can read that rather naughty word. Actually, quite a few of these are rather naughty words, so by all means go on to that blog post to have a look. There's some other potties that I've recommended as well that you can have a look. Different stages of potties that you can try to help them move from the potty to the main toilet, and making sure your child doesn't fall down the toilet and get flushed away. We don't want that. Now let's just have a look at troubleshooting. Obviously regression is a thing that can happen. Some children, they may be really making progress and not having many accidents or any accidents at all, and then all of a sudden they could be having quite a few accidents. This tends to happen if there has been a big change in their life, in their experiences. Perhaps perhaps you've moved house, or something quite dramatic has happened in the family or their neighbourhood or in their lives, and that can have an impact. So there's a bit of aggression. As I said before, I personally wouldn't recommend going back into nappies. Pull-ups, maybe you can go back into pull-ups. There's two schools of thoughts on that one. Or continue with the cloth underwear, and if they keep having accidents, then you can just keep moving on with that. I wonder whether it's worth, actually, I don't know if you have pads for children for bladder control who lack bladder control, like they have incontinence pads for adults. Maybe it's just a little panty liner or something for some children. So it's another little step up before having just a full cloth pants. That might help if they're going through a little period of regression, but you don't want to go back to nappies and the old thing if they've already made the progression into cloth underwear. The main thing is trying to sort out the root problem of why they've regressed, especially if there's been a big issue that's happened or some sort of trauma, and you do need to deal with that. If you've got a rather fidgety baby who does not sit still for half a second, the idea of them sitting on the toilet, on the potty, especially when they have to do a number 2, and they may not even have the patience for it, then you might want to be giving them a little book to look at, maybe one of the potty books, or a toy to be fiddling with and playing with whilst they're on the potty, so they're a little bit distracted and not such a wiggle bum. And I daren't say it, but it is the truth. Some children, they show rather bad behaviour when it comes to potty training, and they use the potty with their bad behaviour. They have a tantrum, they refuse to go to the toilet, and they might kick the potty or have a big issue over that. The main thing I would say, if that's the case, if there's behaviour issues surrounding the potty, just be mindful not to use the potty as a way of punishment or consequence. Like, you sit on that potty and you do a poo right now. It's just, even though you know that this is an issue, make sure that the potty isn't seen to be a place where a child goes for their consequence. That's for the naughty step or the timeout space or whatever you want to call that. That is for that, if you want to do a consequence of your child's bad behaviour, but it shouldn't be the potty. And I know that you know this. You'll probably say, oh my goodness, why is she even saying this? That's obvious. Sadly, it's something that I have seen, I've experienced in my life before, and I just think it can be used, the potty can be used as a consequence when actually it's just a tool to enable somebody to carry out a normal bodily function. And the other thing is, your child may have a bit of a medical problem, maybe they've got diarrhea or constipation, something else is going on there. So if you have tried to address other issues, emotional issues, alleviate fears that they may have with the potty, use different kind of potties and different tools to help your child use it and not be afraid. If you've tried all these different things but your child is still struggling to go to the toilet, to use a potty, then it may be worth going to your doctor and discuss that. There may be a medical issue as to why your child is struggling to use a potty or a toilet. So do consider that as well. I hope this has really helped you in the video. Now, I did say at the beginning of this video I was going to just share what I thought of about the article about children who are going to school wearing nappies. Now, some of the reasoning that people have given is that child development has taken something of a back step in many children because of the lockdowns. Now, I can understand, some speech therapists have said children have been unable to communicate their thoughts and their feelings clearly, or just been able to articulate words because of lockdowns. And I can understand that because of the masks. We were wearing masks, children couldn't see our lips as we were moving them, and so there has been quite a bit of speech delay, and that makes perfect sense. There also some teachers and special educational needs coordinators and workers in schools have said children have struggled with their social skills on being able to communicate their feelings in a mature sort of manner, or at least a manner which matches their age appropriately. However, this can also be due to the lockdowns, children not spending as much time with other children, and therefore they don't know how to communicate their thoughts and their feelings very well. But, we're parents of only one child, so, that's going to be a thing anyway. And say, so for example, parents of only one child, you've not been able to take her maybe during the lockdowns to the parent and child group, so the children haven't been able to relate to your child, may not have been able to relate to other children in those crucial development stages, the early in babyhood, early toddlerhood, in the play groups and things like that because of lockdowns. And so that makes sense why there's some development issues there as a result of the lockdowns. I understand that. However, and this is the rather controversial feelings, I think that any parent who is sending their child to school still wearing nappies, I think that is a sign of very lazy parenting. That's my point of view. You do not need lots of other kids and things like that around to show your child how to use a toilet. There is nothing in lockdown to have prevented you from teaching your child how to use a toilet. Arguably, you probably had even more opportunity to do it, right? You know, you're at home, working from home, perhaps you got your child there. You've only got one child. It's not like you got a plethora of children. I mean, that's for us. You know, there are some parents who've sent their children who've got siblings, but they've gone to school still wearing nappies. I don't think there's any excuse. Even if you've got a child who's got learning disabilities. I've worked with plenty of adults who've got learning disabilities. They learnt how to use the toilet. They can go to the toilet all by themselves. So I don't think there's a reason for it. I don't think there's an excuse to send your child to school still wearing nappies. And I just think that's so detrimental to your child's sense of well-being and self-worth. They're going to be embarrassed. Other kids may laugh at them because they're still wearing nappies. It's going to be so detrimental to your child. Now, personally, I don't think any parent watching this will do that. I can't imagine any parent of only one child sending a child to school wearing nappies. As I said earlier on in the video, you can always delay it a year if you don't feel your child is ready for school. But I think it's a very basic thing to get your child ready for primary school. Make sure they are toilet trained. Yes, children as young as 4 may still even have an accident even when they do go to school. I totally understand that. And I definitely packed spare knickers in my daughter's bag when she started school, because these things can happen. That's understandable, that's fine, but a child should not be going to school in nappies. Now, that's only what I think. Do tell me what you think in the comments below. Do you think I'm being terribly naughty and judgmental of other parents, or do you actually think I've got a point? Children shouldn't be going to school wearing nappies. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Now, I hope you found this video really helpful. I do enjoy doing these videos, and I'll tell you what would be really helpful to me and to SOPs. Please do click that subscribe button. This is a relatively new channel. We're only just starting to grow, and it'd be really helpful for us if you can press that subscribe button. It'll just help with all algorithms and stuff like that. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you ever so much. Toodles.